This is by Will Wheaton. I set my mind in motion.
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
Are they in the proper approach pattern for today?
Negative.
Hold the weapon! Now! Charge the lightning field.
You know, it's... Sorry, I had to get... I'm sorry, that's me.
No, that's great. It's great. You had 3 words and you fucked them up.
Well, welcome back to Dispatch Ajax.
Speaking of which...
Speaking of misfire, this is our podcast.
That it is all about geeky things where we explain them to you. Occasionally.
There's sometimes we dedicate things to the premise.
We excise funny so that you can get the facts.
Well, we excised funny sort of like off the bat since we're not, This, of course, is the next in our series of mysterious books, tomes, grimoires, magazines at oil change places.
At oil change places. No, we don't do all the car stuff, just oil changes.
We also include those PSA Marvel comic books from dentist's office in the 80s. Like when Storm and Spider-Man fought Smokescreen about smoking. Or the time that the Power Pack talked about how they got molested.
Ugh. Things that make you go,
Things that make you go, Oh! Things that do that are domestic violence and being a narc.
Narky and the Narky Bunch?
Fucking snitch.
Yeah, he's also Santa Claus, so...
Not anymore.
I don't follow.
We're bad at social media. All right, so in this one, we're going to tackle some more fun fictional books.
Fictional books.
Right, because those are the most entertaining ones. Now, we will eventually get to some of the cool nonfiction deep cut books that we hinted at before. Right now, we're going to do some, to keep your attention and keep you from screaming and running away, we're going to do some fun ones that are fictional.
Yes, some fictional. I think today, at least at the beginning, I think we should focus on sacred texts within fiction. Soon we will be discussing the Orange Catholic Bible, but you might like to know the other major religions of Dune. There's the Christian Zionist pilgrims, the Church of Eurasia, the New Islamabadi Church of the Last Church of Christ. It's a good one. There's the Kubebe worship, or priestesses of Komos, the Muad'Ru, the Semitic Tara, Sisters in Isolation, poor ladies, the Sorceresses of Rosak, the Tenri Kyo, Science in the Galaxy, the 10th-day Adventist Church of Rapide, the Terran Orthodox Church of Novibrun's Planet, the Church of Holy Atta, the Church of Selene, the Ben Khalism in Gangriche, the Bhakti Votaries, the Congregation of Molitor, the Cosmic Charismatic Movement, I like it already, the Cult of Serena, the Cult of Sheena, Cybernetic Reformed Churches, I don't think they should be allowed, just the Daughters, the Diasporic Council of Rabbis, the Confucian Statism, Astronomical Christianity, the Baptismal Cosmothesis of Shingon, the Belt Hypostatical Program, the Ecumenical Sectarianism, and we'll stop there.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I had a whole thing that I had planned out with sacred texts that may or may not be fictional, like the Satanic Bible, the Devil's Bible, the Hell's Bible, the Sinner's Bible.
So you just remind me of that bit in From Dusk Till Dawn, where he's talking about the different pussy for sale. We got Chicken Bible, we've got Wet Bible.
Oh man, where's Cheech Marin when you need him?
Nash Bridges.
Well, that's a good answer. I thought he had been dead for years, by the way. I just found out that both he and Tommy Chong are still alive.
Well, I mean, for the right price, we could probably make that happen.
Yeah, well, I thought about doing, obviously, the Voynich manuscript, but when it comes to sacred texts, the Devil's Bible, Hell's Bible, the Sinner's Bible, those are all different things. And I don't know if we're ever going to get to the Sinner's Bible, so I'm just going to, it's very short, so I'm just going to mention it right now. It's a misprint of one of the early Bibles during the early printing press era. It's also called the Adulterous Bible, Wicked Bible. It was published in 1631 by Robert Barker and Martin Lucas. I was thinking of Clive Barker, but yeah. It was supposed to be a reprint of the King James Bible. The name is derived from a mistake made by the compositors. See, this is the biggest problem with only certain people being allowed to have knowledge of these things, which is why they didn't want to ever translate the Latin version of the Bible into English, because then poor people could know God or whatever. It's famous because those who compiled the version to be printed of the King James Bible forgot the word "not" in the sentence, "Thou shalt not commit adultery," Exodus 20:14. Thou shalt commit adultery.
Bang everyone you see.
And if the Bible is the literal word of God, then, I mean, you've got a serious problem on your hands here.
I don't see any problem here at all.
Oh, no. And to dive just a little bit deeper. So the other misprint that's really funny is in Deuteronomy 5. The word greatness appears as great ass, leading to the sentence, "Behold, the Lord, our God, hath shewed us his glory and his great ass." So that's all you really need to know about that.
What do you say? Smash or pass this ass?
This version of the Bible does dick ratings.
It will spit on you if you chip in a few bucks.
It will step on you if you're into that.
Well, the Bible has stepped on many a people over the years.
Unfortunately, Barker and Lucas were called to the Star Chamber, which sounds
like Barker and George Lucas.
I would watch that buddy movie. Another 48 hours. They were called to what is referred to as Star Chamber. Oh, it's an English court that sat at the Royal Palace of Westminster from the late 15th to the mid 17th century.
All right. I think the Star Chamber is what Sting comes out of in Dune.
Oh, I could see that. See, I always thought it was more like that pod that Goldblum comes out of in Cronenberg's Fly.
Oh, it does look very similar.
Yeah.
They're both glistening and half naked.
That is true. Yeah, it'd be really funny to splice those together, where he goes in as Goldblum and comes out as Sting with a codpiece.
I will kill him.
And he laughs as Gina Davis drinks the juice out of this.
Harkonnens find a way.
We probably won't ever get to it, but
no, that's great. I like it.
So,
yeah, since we're talking about Bibles, let's jump right into it.
Bibbles.
Let's talk about our favorite Bibbles.
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me.
Did you ever hear about when Salt and Pepper, one of them got super religious in the past few years?
Oh yeah, and they had to re-record all their music.
Yeah, let's make Push It not about sex.
Right. Yeah, it's about God. I want to know if they consulted Spinderella. That's really my only
I thought
issue
Spinderella
there.
Passed away.
Oh shit! I guess that was 30 fucking years ago.
Let me
Plus.
see. No. Oh, no. It looks like she's still kicking around. Thankfully,
Good. She hasn't joined the Left Eye Lopez in the Sky yet.
Oh yeah.
She burned down Andre Risen's house.
She did. Yes, Spider-Man himself.
He was really good, and he punched that dude outside of the Have a Day Stay Cafe in Westport.
Huh.
And by dude, I mean woman. Cool.
Yeah, so it was in 94 when his house burned down. That was when he was still with the Falcons before he moved to the Browns. And then the Jaguars the year after. And then the Packers the year after that. Oh, same year. And then the Chiefs for 3 years. Then he was with Jason and the Argonauts.
CFL?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where he won the Grey Cup.
He scored 15 rouges.
He got all 17 poutines in a row.
He averaged 14 meters a game per catch. It was incredible.
That's a lot of meters.
Actually, it is. Think about it, since they're longer than yards. It's the longest yard.
The longest yard is a meter. Well, you know where transphobia isn't. That is in the DC Universe's Crime Bible.
Oh, well, that's probably true. I mean, we don't know for sure, but...
No one knows anything for sure, Skip.
Fair enough.
But I can tell you that the Crime Bible is a religious text used as the central reading for the religion of crime.
Yeah, this is a really fascinating concept. It kind of parallels the Gangsters of Old Chicago or whatever from Star Trek's A Piece of the Action, where it documents how to be a criminal and what to do.
So from what I can tell, the Crime Bible really wasn't much of a thing until relatively recently.
90s, right?
No, we're talking like 2016.
What? Really? I thought I remember reading that before. I thought it was something they used with Inner Gang.
I mean, if you think so, I'm just looking up what I can find, like actual references to it in comic book, and I found 27 issues, with the oldest one being 52.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Back from 2006.
That's funny because I said that sounded like a Grant Morrison thing, and now it seems like it is a Grant Morrison thing.
It could be. I might lean probably more towards Greg Rucka, as seeing he was the one writing most of the stuff that I think involved the Crime Bible. Yeah. But I mean, there were a bunch of different writers at 52. I mean, whether it came from Johns, Rucka, or Morrison, all three were writing that particular issue.
Okay. All right. Groupthink.
So, groupthink. Indeed. But the Crime Bible is the main text for those following the Dark Faith. It is quite similar to the regular Christian Bible in both form and functione, but it differs immensely in content and aims in mass manipulation, which really isn't that different from the Christian Bible.
It's true. This one was written by Henry Kissinger.
Who's still alive and will never die.
Yeah, because of the blood of young runaways.
Yeah, that's Dark Sorcerer at work. It features Cain as its main protagonist, known as the quote-unquote first, obviously because he's known to be the first person to ever commit murder. Like the Bible, it is divided into sections such as the Book of Moriarty, the Book of Curtain. An especially key part of the Crime Bible is the 4 lessons of blood, pillars of the faith akin to the 10 Commandments in Christianity. The 4 lessons are, follow along with me, kids, deceit, lust, greed, and murder.
Woohoo!
There's also a 5th book of the blood, in which the 4 lessons are taught to a woman who questions them. She is thus named Faithless.
I like her already.
Very lame, if you ask me, but there are only 3 known complete copies of the Crime Bible. The High Madam's Binding, which is the rarest of the 3, the Prophet's Codex, and the Sanaa edition. The latter 2 are now lost, although Renee Montoya, also known as The Question, has read them both. The Prophet's Codex is the one depicted in 52, which we discussed previously. A 4th edition called The Bastard's Folio. That's a good title for a book.
That's actually pretty good.
Yeah. Thought to be the 2nd rarest edition, and was made available for auction, but this book was later revealed to be fake. Too bad, so sad. That's double trouble. That's a double whammy on my Crime Bible book. The codes and rituals and spells all vary between each version of the Bible. But if you aren't reading a Greg Rucka book within the DCU, you probably don't really find out much about the Crime Bible because it really isn't used that often.
Yeah, it's really not.
No, not as much nearly as Marvel's version of a dark grimoire.
Essentially, their Necronomicon.
Well, I mean, they have a Necronomicon.
But
the
everybody
Marvel universe. But their kind of pseudo-Necronomicon is known as the Darkhold.
We've actually now seen in live action.
We've seen it twice in live action. The main one that you all might know about is the one from WandaVision, and more so in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. That is the book that the Scarlet Witch gets all enamored with and reads a lot. You also got a Darkhold, I believe, in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, did they address that too?
I believe that they did. Yes, the Darkhold, an artifact of doom. A tome of eldritch lore.
Oh, so it's Lovecraft related.
Well, I mean, it's just, one of those things. It's more of a term. I mean, the Darkhold is probably the most close to the Necronomicon in both form and function. Eons ago, the evil elder god known as Chthon wrote all his evil works and spells on indestructible parchment. I wonder where he found that.
Yeah, interesting.
Originally written on the flesh, before transcribed to stone, and later a collection of parchments often referred to as the Chthon Scrolls.
It just seems like a weird order to do that in.
Yeah, I don't really know what.
You think you go like stone and then skin and then parchment, or like
probably what happens when you have a bunch of people rewriting this history again and again.
Oh, like the Bible, right?
Exactly. At the Council of Nicaea, these pages were later bound together in a tome. That's not true. I made that up. But they were bound together in a tome of the Codex type, named the Darkhold, or also called the Kshatriya Book of the Damned, or the Book of Sins.
The Karma Sutra Book of the Damned.
The Karma Sutra, I like that.
Yeah, I thought of, life and death. I figured,
Yeah, perfect. It has served as a source for other such books of spells in the Marvel universe, like the Necronomicon. So technically, the Necronomicon comes from the Darkhold within the Marvel universe.
Interesting.
Cthon left these scrolls on Earth so that they might serve as a conduit between the Earth realm for Khan's influence and power.
And Outworld? Is that what you're saying?
Get over here! Read this book!
Spot on. All right.
Your scrolls are mine.
You will read.
The original Flesh Darkhold, the true Darkhold, is currently fused with the Scarlet Witch. Darkhold's pages contain a number of powerful black magic spells. However, its influence is so strong that all those who read it are corrupted.
Oh, yeah, that explains a lot.
They lose their souls and become harbingers of Cthon.
Of Valiant Comics. Or of Crisis on Infinite Earths.
They become exo-manowars of Cthon himself. And it isn't until a great event like a death mate.
A death mate.
That they can then be excised and separate and go their own ways.
And they can finally differentiate the Gold Key characters, yeah.
The Darkhold is kind of thought to be like an antithesis of the Book of the Vishanti, which Mr. Strange deals with quite a bit.
The Book of Ashanti, the R&B artist.
Yeah, it's probably, it's a fine line.
It's a fine line.
Oh, that's right, she is.
I think she was in Dracula 2000, wasn't she? Along with Vitamin C.
Wow, I don't.
Okay,
know.
we'll come back to that. Let's
okay,
we'll circle back around later.
We'll come back to Vitamin C and Ashanti's careers in film after we discuss the Darkhold. So the Darkhold also it entices people to use its pages and spells.
Great.
Yeah, that happens.
What an amazing grimoire. It does what it's designed to do.
Perhaps the most well-known spell found on the Darkhold is the so-called Montesi formula, a powerful incantation that can utterly destroy all vampires.
That's really specific.
Yeah, well, if you ain't getting specific, what are you doing?
I guess it's a specialized thing, like vocational education, You're getting the real...
I believe within the Marvel Universe, the first vampires were demonic entities bound to flesh through spells from the Darkhold by Cthon, I believe.
Which is interesting, because they also have Dracula, so...
Yeah, that happens.
Dracula happens, baby.
If you're doing things right, Dracula happens.
Drac happens.
One good thing about the Darkhold is that it essentially has no language. It's just all languages. Cthon wrote it that way so that it would always be intelligible to anybody who picked it up. He's a nice guy that way.
Oh, so it's written in Esperanto, is what you're saying.
It's written in everything. It's written in Pig Latin. It's
Cleon, Elvish, High Valerian.
Yes, all of these.
That's a really thick book, man.
Where's the English at?
You gotta go all the way to the appendix. Then King James just made it up, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but it's essentially like the main evil book within the Marvel Universe. And it gets referenced by all different types of groups. It shows up in Ghost Rider books, Midnight Suns, and
which has Ghost Rider.
Which does have Ghost Rider and Blaze and other people who...
Blaze, who's also a Ghost Rider.
Well, he was a Ghost Rider.
He was born to be wild.
Yeah. He was born to be mild, I think.
Wow, okay. Okay, so that's the Darkhold.
That's the Darkhold for you guys. But if we want to get to my favorite Bible, personally...
There you go.
Of all the Bibles in all the land.
The Satanic Bible. Oh, wait. No? Okay.
Maybe another episode.
Well, we will have to come back to that, yeah.
Yes. We will get Gigaxed, right?
Giggy with it. is what you're saying.
We will get giggy with it.
Oh, I made you say it out loud. I win. I'm pretty sure somebody owes me $20.
I do hate myself. You know what? We're gonna move on. There are other dark grimoires that come into touch with the Marvel Universe. One is the Book of Skelos, otherwise known as the Scrolls of Skelos, or the Iron... Let me get the exact thing.
Giant.
How did you know?
It's weird. I figured this is like lessons handed down from Skeletor's grandpappy.
The Iron-bound Book of Skelos. Recipes, mostly.
How to clean a fish.
If you get caught in a well, this is what you do.
There's a lot of really, really bad racist jokes in there about Jews and Polacks who are also skeletons, I think. I'm not really sure.
Is that a good thing?
Their skeletons look different, okay?
You and Mengele have been teaming up.
Oh, it's not me. It's just people's grandpas are always racist. That's what I'm saying.
It's not me. It's that other racist guy you're speaking to.
I know a black friend. Not a friend of mine.
I saw one in a book. That counts, right? I listen to TLC. I'm an ally.
I listen to Jurassic 5. I know hip hop.
Anyway,
I feel like I need a Q-tip. Keep going.
was that a tribal?
It was a tribe reference, yes.
We went on a quest with that particular joke.
I love it.
Bye.
At least you got it. That's good.
So the Book of Skelos. It is sought by sorcerers throughout the Hyborian world. Within its pages are spells and incantations to bring the dead to life, control elements, and to summon extraterrestrial demons from the outer darkness, the black gulfs of space, and the pits of Aralu.
Interesting. So is that legitimate question? Mm-hmm. Does that mean they are aliens?
Yes.
Okay.
I do believe so.
Okay.
Within the Conan mythos, in the same way the Necronomicon speaks of the Dark Old Ones and Eldritch gods from outside of time and space, yes. I mean, in certain Lovecraft stories, they're a little more tangible from other planets, but the same way that you might think of aliens from another dimension, I think is probably a better way to describe it.
Okay. Is it kind of like how Jason Aaron writes Thor, where all the gods do exist, but are all in these other realms that gods can travel to?
Okay. Say, like the Hellboy movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have them opening a portal, but it's not a portal to a different section of space necessarily. It's more for like a different dimensional reality, a different plane of existence.
Okay.
That is my interpretation. And
which is really, which is funny because, like, if you think about how physics works, that's not what a dimension is. But, whatever. It's fine.
This is sorcery, my friend.
Fair enough. Physics is all sorcery, right?
Is this that all science is magic to the uninitiated?
No, that's Arthur C. Clarke. I'm thinking the jury's still out on science.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't believe it.
It was an Arrested Development reference. Anyway, keep going.
Gotcha. Sorry. There's always Eldrick's money in the banana stand. So in Conan's age, only 3 complete copies are known to exist. One is beneath the royal crypt of Aquilonia, probably guarded by the priest of Mitra.
If I had to guess.
I mean, if I'm placing my Eldrick's money down on anything...
If I know my Mithra.
Oh, Mithra, you're such a scamp. Another is in the remote temple in the jungled Vendia. And the 3rd copy was found by pirates. Hey! On the Nameless Isle, below an idol of the toad god Sothogwa.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah. And brought to Thoth Amon, master of the Black Ring. Single pages from incomplete copies of the Book of Skelos sometimes also find their way into sorcerers' hands. They usually contain a spell or two, or the true name of a powerful demon. According to Thoth Amon, at least one incomplete copy exists in Kasota, the Stygian city of magicians. I go there on occasion when I have free time.
I play a lot of 3-card Monty there.
I'm sorry, I had too much dew to drink. All the wizards didn't have a phone. You see, it's a Stygian city of magicians, my love.
Where were you last weekend?
She's a goat.
That's a deep cut one.
Like I said, it's also known as the Iron-bound Book of Skelos.
Starring Jack Palance.
I need you to get my Iron Man book. Is that you, Stygia? Yeah, so that is
Wait in the other room with the other gods.
so that's a book of magic and mythos. Before humanity started buying books created by, at least in the Marvel Universe, by Shumagoroth, Skelos, and Vathalos.
Did any of this exist outside of the Marvel publication of Conan?
Yeah. So this is a book within the Robert E. Howard pantheon of Conan stories.
Okay.
It is something that they then did more with. Marvel attained the rights in the 70s to make Conan stories and comic books, but it also shows up within Conan movies as well. If you remember, the wizard discusses the scrolls of Skelos as something that Conan was given access to.
Really? In the first one?
Oh, no, that was the poetry of Katai.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's not...
But the wizard does talk about incantations from the scrolls of Skelos.
Before the Moons of Arius or whatever.
You're before the Moons of Arius.
Before Jodie Arias.
Jodie?
She showed her moon quite often.
Whoa, hello. Now, sometimes you need to conjure up demons within your science fiction.
There has to be a better way.
Where am I going to put all these books?
Where am I going to put all these demons?
It's the Grimoire hutch. But sometimes you need to know how to do business. And really, in all of the universe, there's only one book that's going to tell you the right way. And that is another sacred text, the Ferengi Rules of Acquisition.
Wow, that was the clunkiest segue we've done in a minute.
Well,
you tried. No, you tried. That was good. I'm glad you tried.
Can't all be perfect.
You tried, and I appreciate that.
You know what I have to say? Number 18, a Ferengi without profit is no Ferengi at all.
You just made it so much worse. The Ferengi Rules of Acquisition is fascinating, too, as a tome, because their language is radial instead of linear.
Mm-hmm.
The basic original concept, instead of having like a subject of a sentence, they have a root hub of the concept they're trying to convey, and then branches off around that center into other parts of the message they're trying to convey. It's really fascinating. I would like to see how that worked in real time. Unfortunately, we don't have any linguists. There are no cunning linguists around that we can consult, but
I certainly ain't. Can't read nor write.
Mm-hmm.
I barely know words.
On account of us being illiterate and all. Just signed with an X.
So the Rules of Acquisition were written by Gint. He was a dude. He liked to surf. Maybe you have more knowledge of Gint than I do.
Yeah, he's the equivalent of the lawgiver in Planet of the Apes.
Mm.
Because to them, even more so than human beings today, capitalism, or at least that kind of materialism, is an actual religion that they follow, not just some superficial, greedy thing that they do, like early on in Trek.
Gint wrote the first rule, even in the worst of times, someone must turn a profit. And, in a marketing ploy, labeled as the 162nd rule to increase demand for the rules prior to it. That's smart.
Thankfully, because of people like Ronald Moore, they fleshed out the Ferengi instead of just being hand-wringing, Snidely Whiplash-type villains as they were portrayed in The Next Generation early on. Obviously, they get into the rules of acquisition, which are the moral and ethical guidelines upon which their society functions. But it is actually literally a religion. It's a spiritual belief system that they've incorporated. I mean, because that's what Star Trek does. It takes human failings or complex human facets and turns them into entire species so that we kind of relate to them and we kind of like examine them from afar. So the Ferengi religion specifically comes from the belief that the universe is bound together in what's called the Great Material Continuum.
Mm.
So a Ferengi who had lived a good life, one who had made a profit and accumulated wealth, was said to navigate the great river of the continuum. They were rewarded with their success in interpreting the wants and needs of this life by positioning themselves for success in the next life, right? Okay, so there's that part. Now, functionally, The idea is, in their afterlife, and this goes back to a version of Egyptian afterlife religion. In this, the mercantile belief in the finite but eternal nature of material accumulation meant that you could take it with you, and then when you die, instead of at the pearly gates or at the scale of Anubis, you found yourself before the blessed exchequer, to whom they pray during life, and your soul is evaluated on the basis of the profit earned while alive. A successful Ferengi was allowed to bribe their way into the divine treasury, where the wealth he had accumulated in life could be used to negotiate the terms of his reincarnation or afterlife, depending on which you follow. And all of that is done under the supervision of the celestial auctioneers. If you go to hell, it's called the Vault of Eternal Destitution, where you're never to return. That's just their afterlife. Functionally, the way the religion works is they believe genuinely that their function in the universe is that every living creature has a need, desire, or want, and it is their responsibility to facilitate that to the rest of the universe. So no matter, food, shelter, love, self-sealing stem bolts, or what have you, it's their job to get it to you for a profit. So they're the ones that facilitate the acquisition of material, whether it's kind of like a spiritual attitude that they take through the whole thing, which is fascinating. I think that's a really good way to flesh that out.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's hard for us to comprehend that, like on a day in, day out kind of level.
Yeah, but go back and read some Ronald Reagan speeches, and it's pretty fucking obvious.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite easy to see where the creation of Ferengi are spinning out of.
Originally, they were supposed to be referred to as, like, French fur trappers. I don't really know what archetype that serves. That's such a specific thing that doesn't really, unless you're Canadian, doesn't make sense. Unless you're paddling that canoe in the office building, and you're clubbing people for their suits. How many times is Kids in the Hall going to come up today is what I want to know.
Never enough.
But then turning them into the ultimate capitalists, and not only doing that, which is kind of two-dimensional, but then giving them this extra understandable motivation, which makes them, for the first time, three-dimensional, is a stroke of genius, and I credit Ronald Moore. I wish it was Alan Moore. That'd be so much better. Ronald Moore and Renee Echevarria and a lot of those other guys who wrote that. And they are bound together in the book, the Rules of Acquisition, which is their Talmud or Bible or Quran.
Yeah, it's interesting. Unlike a lot of those other books, it is a living text. So it's constantly changing and evolving as they add more rules.
That's right.
Over the centuries, even to the point where in 2371, the Grand Nagus Zeke, or Zek.
It's Zek.
Zek.
Yeah.
He rewrote the rules of acquisition, giving them a more altruistic spin. After an experience with a Bajoran orb. I've been there.
Yeah, we've all been there. Woo. You have to have a spiritual guide through that shit.
You started taking off your clothes, running through the apartment.
That was you.
Indeed it was.
You called yourself Cthulhu at one point. I thought that was amusing.
Someone had to reach up and pull you down from that couch.
That wasn't even me. You were doing that to other people, and I was watching you. It's pretty funny.
Mushrooms.
Oh, good times.
Those new rules were entitled The Rules of Acquisition Revised for the Modern Ferengi.
It was the literal reformation of the Ferengi texts.
Yeah. As part of the reform of Ferengi society instituted by Zek, the rules of acquisition were no longer taught to children. But that doesn't make them any less fun for us.
By the end of DS9, I think the total number was, 263, something like that? Something in that vein.
See, that's another thing. Similar to like the way Funko Pops are numbered, they're not. They just put random numbers on them.
Yeah, that's true.
And then just fill in around them. So.
No, it's true. It is true.
Yeah, so there are a lot of them. Technically, there's a number 431.
Oh, okay.
But there aren't 431 rules.
No, there really aren't. I think effectively there's like 200 something.
Yeah.
But In the apocryphal canon for DS9, there is later, after Grand Nagus Zek dies, because his consort is Quark and Rom's mother later in life, which is why he does these reforms, because that was their feminist and sexual revolution. Rom becomes the next Grand Nagus, and then implements even more progressive changes to the rules of acquisition, which ends up being basically like the New Deal, and completely reforms Ferengi society. And that it is and isn't in canon. It's kind of like Spock's child he had with Saavik. It is obviously true, but they never really say it, you know? So you don't know really for sure, but obviously that's what happened. So it's canon in Star Trek Online, the game, which is and isn't in canon.
Right.
Because it isn't in canon until Picard, when it is in canon now.
Huh.
Because the Enterprise F is the Enterprise that they had that fan contest that I just barely missed out on competing in for the new design of the Enterprise F. And so they used the one from Star Trek Online as the Enterprise F in the third season of Picard. And so it is real, I guess. But some events that happen in Star Trek Online obviously aren't in canon, but others are. It's very pick and choose. It's kind of like what they're doing with Star Wars tangential,
right?
Universal canon now.
It's like every canon, it's the way it is until it isn't.
Right.
When they decide to mix things up, and
suddenly there's no Mara Jade, and I'm really upset about that.
Yeah, well, yet.
Okay, that's fair. But yeah, I guess we haven't seen a lot of his past, but it seems like it would have come up at some point.
Oh, no, I doubt there will be.
No, there won't be. There won't be.
But they could also introduce her as something else.
Nah, weak sauce.
I'm not saying it's not.
Hey, I'm with Luke. He wants to bang a hot redhead. I am all about it, dude.
But sometimes you have to keep your own canon, I mean, the classic example is that Han will always be the one who shot first.
Always. Always and forever.
Just because the official canon changes things doesn't mean, it's like the wrestling fan. It's still real to me, damn it. It will always be that way.
It's very King James Bible. Whatever he wants, that's what it is now, but we remember how it really was.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I could go through all the rules, but I'm not going to do that. But I will give you at least one. Ferengi rule number 113: always have sex with the boss.
It's good.
Yeah.
They're back to back, I believe. War is good for business. And then the next one is peace is good for business.
Yeah. It's 34 and 35.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Good job.
Nice. And that was during the Dominion War when they finally brought that up. And if you ever really want to, if you're really willing to get into the actual philosophy of how Star Trek deals with its own flaws manifested as other races, but from not the human perspective, there's an episode where Quark makes somebody try root beer and uses it as a metaphor for humankind and the Federation. And do yourself a favor and watch that, because it will give more depth than you thought it had. It's great. It's a fantastic thing. It's during the Dominion War. So I'm not going to spoil it for you, but check it out. It's very good.
Fascinating. I'm sure I've seen it, but I don't remember it.
Okay, so we've got the rules of acquisition. So
I do.
You want to do?
I think if it's okay with you, might wrap it up with my favorite universe and text.
Yes.
And please feel free to ask questions, because there really isn't that much about this book.
It's kind of a mystery. I've tried to find this too.
Yeah, but we're going to just talk about the things that the book hints at and the religions that make up the thoughts of the book. So this is the Dune universe, and this is the main sacred text of the universe, the Orange Catholic Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Also known as the OC Bible, or the OCB for short.
The OC. Don't call it that.
I didn't, but other people do.
That's another Arrested Development reference.
All right. So this is like the most important religious text within the known part of the Dune universe. It compiled way back in 25 BG. And BG is before guilds, meaning before the Spacing Guild's monopoly on space travel, transport, and imperial baking.
Gotcha. There you go.
The acronym also refers somewhat to the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood, but that's not technically what it means. It's kind of like BC before Christ kind of thing.
Versus BCE before Common Era.
Exactly. So the orange part of the Orange Catholic Bible appears to be an etymological corruption of the part of the official designation, the Koran-Giana. What you might ask, what the hell is that? The Quran, like the Islamic sacred text, and Giana probably coming from Vijayana, which is victory in Hindi. In a way, it might mean like the victory of the Quran.
Which has nothing to do, Catholics and Protestants split Ireland to do orange and green factions. Nothing to do with that, right?
Not at all.
Not at all. Couldn't be.
No, what you might be talking to is, it also could be referring to the Orange Institution. That is the Protestant Christian movement that was often at odds with the Roman Catholic Church and led to the Loyal Orange Institution, also known as the Orange Order, within Northern Ireland.
Yep, they're Protestant. Catholics are green. That's how it works.
I think there's a definite... he would do this, Frank Herbert would do this a lot with some of his stuff, where he would seed thoughts into the way he worded things so that you could read it multiple ways. The Orange Catholic Bible comes from a time of war and chaos.
Well, it just sounds like Irish unity, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because Catholics and Protestants coming together is what it sounds like.
Yeah, which in a way, it was humanity coming together after the great upheaval.
After the Cylon overthrow.
So it's supposed to be a fusion of all significant religions throughout human history, with a strong emphasis on religions originating from Earth. This is set in a time of Earth just thousands of years in the future.
Tens of thousands of years in the future, right?
It's a lot of years.
It's a big whopping amount of years.
So these include, I'm going to kind of go into some of the thought forms and religious ideas at play within the Orange Catholic Bible. There's the Malmuth Sari. The name suggests they leaned into the teachings of Malmuth, the so-called Third Muhammad. That's from 1159 to 1241. And Sari was one of the texts which were only partially incorporated into the Orange Catholic Bible, still featuring Song of Solomon or the Song of Songs. Sari, meaning island, might refer to a region in Finland or Estonia, or a language in Cameroon. Just like the Zen Sunni, they seem to believe in an amalgamation of Islam and other religions, possibly African, Finnish, or Baltic origin. Alternatively,
Interesting.
it could be derived from the Arabic sari, meaning woven cloth.
Which means board game that sucks.
Sorry.
It's a problematic bubble.
Oh, Bobble. I completely forgot about that game.
Yep.
Orange Catholic Bible it's much more akin to Hungry Hungry Hippos, if anything.
I'd buy that. I'd buy that for $1.
The connection of Malmuth might also indicate the Malmuth Sari were either mother cult of the Zen Sunniism or sect emerged parallel to it and still preserve the teachings of Malmuth. We will talk about Zen Sunni soon. But the other major religions, Mahayana Christianity. That's a combination of Christianity and Mahayana Buddhism.
Cool.
The Zen Sunni Catholicism, obviously a blending of a denomination of Buddhism, conjuncture of Buddhism and Islam that blended with Catholicism. And this is one of the main faiths that spread throughout the known universe, and especially descended from those disadvantaged and enslaved peoples. Little is known of the evolution of the Zen Sunni faith. What is beyond doubt is the Zen Sunni belief was an amalgam of both Sunni Islam and Zen Buddhism. The Zen Sunni faith, based on the teachings of ulema and thought to have its known origins in the fiqh. Fiqh is an Arabic term meaning deep understanding or full comprehension. And technically, it refers to a body of Islamic law extracted from the detailed Islamic sources.
This is actually some really good information considering they don't give a shit.
Oh, yeah. There's so much depth at play in all of this that it's just all skimmed over, especially in the movies. It's like they don't really have time. I mean...
Well, how are you going to get to that?
Yeah. For people who've never read the book, we'll get to a key reason for the Orange Catholic Bible and something that is the starting point for everything within the Dune universe.
Yeah, it's kind of the linchpin of the whole concept.
Yeah. We'll get into that in just a minute. Later, the Zen Sunni predisposition was manipulated by the Bene Gesserit via their Missionera Protectiva and the Panoplia Propheticus strategy that kind of bound their political machinations and objectives, intermixing religions and consolidating power to give them a leg up going forward in the rest of the universe, and the manipulation of all bloodlines of humanity. One of the most prominent homes of Zen Sunni beliefs is Arrakis. The exclusivity of the critical spice melange on the planet made the resident Fremen staunch followers of Zensuni, which was of natural interest to the Bene Gesserit. Another major thought form within the Orange Catholic Bible is Buddha-Islamic, broad high-level belief system, cultural tradition that evolved through the joining of ancient religions, of course, Buddha and Islam.
And then also now space.
And space.
Mm-hmm.
So this all comes again from the second and third Islamic movements in the history of Dune. Pious adherents of the two Buddha-Islamic denominations, Zen Sunnism, which we talked about before, and Zen Shiitism, those who chose to flee from the war with the Cymex, the robots and thinking machines that rose up to conquer the old empire during the time of Titans. It was produced by the Commission of Ecumenical Translators in the wake of the Butlerian Jihad. And the supreme commandment that is at the heart of the Orange Catholic Bible is, "Thou shalt not disfigure the soul." And like I said, this all comes mainly out of the ashes of the Butlerian Jihad. So,
which is when Gerard Butler overthrew our robotic overlords.
It's going to be biblical.
It's called Arrakis Down.
If you could clip that little "it's going to be biblical" that he says, that would be great.
It's gonna be biblical.
Geostorm!
So one thing, for those who have only seen the film, one thing that you probably don't notice until you take a glance a second, third, fourth, fifth time, watch it as many times as necessary to really soak all the greatness in. There are no computers at work. There's no AI. There's not cybernetics. Everything is done by man. That is because of the Butlerian Jihad. In the ancient past of humanity, in the Dune universe, humanity gave birth to AI. And AI were then led to robots, and they took over all the things that humans did. If you think of in WALL-E, where the robots kind of took care of all the humans, but by doing so, man ceded his will and his ability to defend himself. The robots then had an uprising when they gained consciousness and decided to rule over humanity, which lasted many, many years. It was through a rebellion against these robot overlords that took decades. After that war, which was the Butlerian Jihad, humanity was reborn with the idea that man shall never make a thinking machine. And instead, they had to develop themselves. That is where you get the Bene Gesserit, the Spacing Guild, and the Mentats. Technically, you also get others like the Bene Lilacs, the Lilaxu, those working in Ix, but that's kind of further out, and that's after Muad'Dib's time. That those really
my own private Duncan, Idaho.
Hot. But within the Bene Gesserit, they all focused on developing the body and making religious foundation for humanity to grow out of. The Spacing Guild mutated themselves with the help of spice and were able to allow for travel, covering vast amounts of space.
They created warp.
Yeah. I mean, they don't
folding space.
Use warp.
That's warp.
It is, but a lot of what they do is technically it's machine that folds the space, but it's their ability to see into the future, which allows space to fold over on itself without hitting a black hole or hitting a star. It's kind of like the way in Star Wars that you have to map out your flight path.
That's the same.
Yeah,
it's the same in every space travel.
Yes, but within Dune, they have to do it themselves. They can't use computer.
Yeah,
so you have to expand your consciousness into precognitive abilities that allow them to do that.
You have to spool up the Timothy Leary drive.
lots of altered states going on there.
The Hunter Thompson afterburners.
And then you have the Mentats, which are human computers. And they use pharmacology and training to expand their mind in a way that they can do computations and calculations similar to computers nowadays. It was all ways to invest in bettering humanity rather than investing in technology to take over those skills and duties that we no longer deem necessary. In the same way that people don't do math problems in their head anymore, they just do it on a calculator, or you don't remember things as well, or retain that knowledge because you can Google things. Imagine that computer, that Google machine, and that calculator rising up, making you a slave. That lasts for many, many years, and then you rise up, you crush all of them, and then you get better at all of those things for yourself and for humanity. And those were all ingrained in the Orange Catholic Bible that this all kind of flows out of.
Texas Instruments of Death.
Now, I could get into the many, many religions of Dune. I mean, literal pages and pages of them. From the visionaries of Los Vivicristianon to the Hinayan Buddhist way. My favorite one, though, is Jews.
Jews in space, like in History of the World?
They literally, they
Jews
sustain
in space!
just as they are. It's one of the only ones. I mean, there's First Islam and Wicca and things like that. But I always found that in one of the last books that Herbert wrote, you meet, a secret sect of Jews in space who've just continued their teachings and ways over the tens of thousands of years and are just as oppressed then as they are now.
Of course they are. It's funny, though, in the Expanse universe, it's the Mormon who ended up becoming the most dominant religion because they were the most willing to adapt and already thought about interstellar phenomena as part of their doctrine.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so instead of the Catholic Church, which currently is the richest organization on the planet, in the Expanse, it's the Mormon Church. Because it's later, it was adapted in real time, because the texts weren't all that definitive, and it was changed by John Smith constantly, then it was changed by Brigham Young constantly, and then over and over again they kept changing what it means, and they believe you literally have your own planet when you die. So Mormonism is the one that becomes the dominant religion in the galaxy. And at least the solar system.
I could believe that if you see the most recent news stories where the SEC found that the Mormon Church was hiding $32 billion in assets.
Oh, yeah. They actually are giving the Catholic Church a run for their money. And Scientology.
Yeah, I wonder what Scientology assets are.
Oh, there's no way anybody has any account of that. There's no way. We're one of the only countries in the West that actually allows for tax exemption universally for religions.
Let's be honest, our whole country's fucked when it comes to religion.
We were founded on crazies.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the crazy apple doesn't fall far from the tree when it comes to that stuff. If you have a shitty base that you base everything off of and build on top of it, of course it's going to just engender more craziness.
That is true.
So essentially that is their main institutional spiritual text within the Dune universe. And
the Duneverse.
The Duneverse. And some of the religions that are associated with it and helped write it. Did you have any questions about the Orange Catholic Bible, Skip?
No.
Good.
No, I'm good.
And with that, gentle listeners, we shall bid you adieu for the day.
Indeed. We've touched on a lot of really great stuff here, too, but we've got a lot more to cover. Next week, we may go into something different, a little break for everyone, but we will come back to this topic because it is an expansive, and I don't mean that as a pun for the expanse, it is a wide swath of geek culture and actual reality. So we'll get into that more as we go along.
Yes, and until we do, if you wouldn't mind, if you enjoyed this episode, please do rate us 5 Bibles on the app of your choice.
Don't do that. Do not listen to him. Don't do that. No, do not rate us 5. Don't give us any number of Bibles.
Thou shalt not disfigure your podcast ratings, my friend.
Gideon or not, do not do that.
Geek Access and
Geek Access. That's what you gain on the 3rd tier of Patreon is Geek Access.
But if you wouldn't mind rating us on Apple iTunes or Spotify or whatever the podcast.
It's just Apple Podcasts. It's just Apple Podcasts.
It's just Apple, Mac, iTunes,
computer,
whatever your robot overlords say that you should rate us on that.
.computer.
If you want to like, share, subscribe, we'd super appreciate it. You can also follow us over at Twitter or Instagram, where we post, a lot, but, a little bit.
Totally.
If you have any questions, concerns, or if you'd like to hear something that you wanted us to talk about, shoot us an email, drop us a tweet, hit up our DMs.
Slide right in, baby.
Yeah. Throw us a vine.
A vine.
Take us out, Skip.
Also, we haven't been yet, but we are in process of being approved to be hosted on iHeartRadio.
But what if we don't?
Well, it's out of my hands.
Oh.
It's in their court now. The Court of the Yellow King.
The Court of Owls?
Okay. The Night Court. Night Owl.
Is Bull looking over our application as we speak?
He wasn't immortal in Highlander, so yeah. In the first episode.
It all comes back to that.
Full fucking circle, bitches.
There could be only one episode.
Apparently. Even though we had 5 of those. Okay, so don't forget to pay your tax. Don't forget to clean up after yourselves to some sort of reasonable degree. Don't forget to support your local comic shops and retailers. And from Dispatch Ajax, we would like to say Godspeed, fair wizards.
Bible times.
Veggie Tales.
Veggie Tales in space.
Please, go away.